Ladies and gentlemen, in this session, our guests will be speaking on workshop webinars, soft selling attendees by the thousands into your programs. So you're going to want to stick around today because you are going to learn the key strategies for running effective workshops, how to close high ticket back end sales, and some of the most common mistakes to avoid. Also, how to maximize conversions and the key metrics that you should be paying attention to. So you'll want to stick around to the very end. And our presenter for this session is Marquel Russell. Now, if you don't know Marquel, he is arguably one of the best when it comes to revenue growth for coaches and consultants. Marquel Russell is a multi-million-dollar revenue generator, best-selling author, rapid business growth strategist, and coach who has earned the title, the King of Client Attraction. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Welcome, Marquel. How you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here, Vernon, man. It's always a good time when we get together.
Always a pleasure. So I know that you're doing something really cool in the game right now. You're using workshops, and you're using workshops to sell basically like high ticket, $10,000 programs and up. So I wanted to start today by really just going deep and dissecting, kind of like the method to the madness and how you've created this. So I'd like to start by asking you the question, like with your workshop, right? Like what are kind of like the core things that you are, you're building, you're putting in place so people feel like they got enough value? Because one of the things I see in the marketplace today is that people just do a workshop, but they don't really get value. They're just trying to like get people on something so they can pitch them. So what would you say are the core like foundational pieces of your workshop that you have in place when you do this?
Yeah, so basically I have a philosophy, right? Whereas the best way to show people you can help them is by actually just helping them, right? And when you show people you can help them, they want you to help them more because you've helped them solve a problem in advance, right? So a lot of, especially like what you mentioned, like in the marketplace, it's like everybody is just giving you a little bit just to sell you something, right? So my goal is to give so much value where the logical next step is, this is amazing, what else do you have? So I want to create that effect. Wow, if this was this good, what else do you have? So it's the logical next step. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like,
the
kids don't just want to go to Disney for one thing, they go to Disney and be like, okay, this was amazing. What else is there? This is amazing. What else is there? So it's that same experience, right? So it's like you want to create that same wow experience with your workshops where you're actually teaching people stuff in real time, where they're getting real ahas, stuff that they can actually go implement. A lot of times people ask me, they say, okay, how do you not teach too much though? Right? Because I know one of the philosophies is don't teach, just tell. Or they say, give them the what, but not the how.
And not the how.
Or make it very confusing so that they feel like they need you. And it's like, all of that to me isn't really an integrity. I think people are intelligent, right? Especially when your market is adults, right? I think adults can make sound decisions without being manipulated. So it's like when you teach them and you show them like this is amazing. It's kind of like if you go to a mall and they give you a sample, they know their food is good. So they're like, if I give you a sample, you're gonna like it. So it's like I'm like, hey, I'm gonna show up. I'm gonna give you as much as I can within the time. Like we're gonna run out of time before I run out of game and strategy to give you. That's just the reality, right? So now it's like after we're done, you can take this and legit go implement it on your own and get results. Just send me a testimonial. However, there are some of you who are like, all right, Marquel, you and your team, how can y'all help me do this to get results faster? And those are the individuals I want to have a conversation with. Some people, quite frankly, are just there for the free stuff. right? That's just what it is. You're never going to be able to convert them because they're just there for the free stuff. However, I want that segment of the market who's like, this is amazing. I get it. I see that you're the real deal. I want to get sure results, and I want to get support making it happen so I can focus on my zone of genius. And that's who we're speaking to.
Got it. And so with the workshop, you mentioned like the people are just coming there for the free stuff. So is this a paid audience, an audience that pays like a low ticket to attend the workshop, or is this just wide open, free, anybody can attend?
Great question. So basically, I've done it both ways, right? So I've done paid workshops and I've done free workshops. I like the free workshops better because it eliminates some of the barriers, right? Because people are paying. If I charge 97 just like everybody else is charging 97, people are going to automatically put me in the same bucket with those individuals. And it's like 97 is not, it's like if people pay 97 ain't going to change my life, right? So it's not like, okay, man, if people pay 97, it's going to be a game changer. It's like, nah, but I know if they can get access to the information, it's going to change their lives. Because a lot of times they've been burned by going to these $47, $97 workshops. So they're a little bit more hesitant to actually register and show up. So the relationship is actually more valuable to me than the $97 transaction. So I'll say, okay, I'm going to invest this. I could charge this, yes. But instead, I'm going to invest this into you. All you got to do is meet me halfway and just show up to actually get what I'm trying to give you. And then some people say, we talked about this earlier, some people think that, well, if you let them come for free, they're not buyers. You're not gonna take somebody from free to a $5,000 or $25,000 or more offer, and it's like we haven't found that to be the case. Like we have free individuals who will invest at the next level, and then we have people who will spend something and invest at the next level. Because even when we do free, we'll do free, and then people will typically have a paid VIP upgrade, and on average, it's probably like a 70-30. The individuals who end up buying on the back end, it's probably like 70% who actually bought the VIP upgrade, depending on the event, but we'll say on average, and about 30% who actually didn't pay for the VIP upgrade, right? But that's still 30% who may not have experienced you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like there's kind of like a widening divide of like, hey, don't like get people to pay you first and then upsell them or take them through an ascension model. And then there's this like, hey, like what you're saying, just give a bunch of value and there's going to be people that convert like that 30% that you wouldn't have had otherwise that maybe didn't buy the VIP. What, out of curiosity, what do you charge for the VIP like bump? And like, when does that happen? Is that like once they register? And do you have that like that as an upsell, like an OTO, like on the registration page once they register?
Yeah, so we'll typically go from like free, and then they register, and then on the thank you page, it's the opportunity like, hey, congratulations from registering. If you want to get XYZ result faster, whatever the result they register for, here's how we go about doing it, right? Upgrade to the VIP, you're going to get this, and you're going to get this, and you're going to get this, and this. And then they can upgrade right there.
Got it. And then how long are the workshops that you're teaching?
So typically, because I know we were talking about specifically like the ones that go to a call. So if you're going like workshop to a call to your enrollment team, 60 to really about 45 to 90 minutes is fine. And if it's 90 minutes, that's like including Q&A. That's typically enough to say, okay, hey, if you like this, if you love this, if you like this, you'll love our other program. Here's what it consists of. And then you talk about your program. You say, okay, here's how you get in. Go schedule a call.
Yeah, that's I like that. So that's like the sweet spot's 45 to 90 minutes teaching, giving away tons of value. Are there any like common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when they're trying to like run their workshops or they're trying to like run this model? Like, what are some of those things that you see people? I know you mentioned like not giving a ton of value? Like, is there anything else that comes to mind that you see?
Yeah, I would say not doing it consistently enough. So not doing it. So just trying to do it one time and it not getting you results you want, and then you stopping. So that's number one. Number two is really not tying it into your overall marketing strategy. So it's one thing to like take it and just like do it as a tactic, but like how do you tie this into your overall marketing strategy for the next 90 days, 6 months, year? Like how does this fit into your overall marketing strategy versus just being like a new shiny object that
And
you're
then
doing?
And then how would you like? How do you do that? How do you make sure you're doing that effectively? Like for the people that are listening out there, maybe they can take some wisdom for you. So like, I'd imagine that somebody sees, oh, I should do workshops for my business. I have a friend over here that's crushing it with workshops. I'm just gonna jump in and try it. I do one or two and it doesn't work because I have like 10 people show up or nobody show up, and then like I stop doing it. So obviously that's not a good look, right? But then in terms of the overall marketing strategy, like what does that look like for you in your business, Marquel?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing people don't understand, like it always works, right? It may not work to where you wanted it to work to. So like for example, I was talking to one of our media buyers earlier, and he was like, "Hey man, I'm excited to see how this works. We're actually launching a new campaign." He was like, "I'm excited to see how this works." And I was like, the cool thing is like everything we've done works. We're just trying to see what's the most optimal way to get to the result. But it always works. Like if you had 10 people to show up, that worked, right? Even if you wanted 50, you still got 10 to show. It worked. You just didn't hit the goal. So now it's like, all right, what do we need to optimize for the next one to increase that? Where was the breakdown? What was it the show rate that was the breakdown? Was it the landing page dropped? What exactly happened? Was it some tech stuff that happened that we didn't pick up on? Like what? Like it always works though, right? So I think having that right perspective is first and foremost. And number two, just figuring out, okay, let's say, for example, you say, okay, I'm going to do this. Let's say, for example, somebody says, this year my goal is to do 12 workshops. So I'm going to do one a month, for example. And then after that, then I'm going to just optimize as I go. And then after a year, you got a well-oiled machine that's producing you X, Y, Z. So now going into the new year, you got you could back out specific revenue projections based on what you saw happen after your 12 workshops. But a lot of times people don't do stuff long enough. They don't even have a long-term approach.
Yeah.
They're like, man, if this don't work in 90 days, I was talking to a client the other day, and he was like, man, if I want to get, 3 clients over the next 90 days to really show me this works. And I was like, that what works? And he was like, well, I know y'all system work. I'm just talking about like, is this viable what I'm offering? And I'm like, what are you doing this just to make three clients, or are you doing this because you feel like this is a calling or something? And he was like, well, it's definitely a calling and so forth. So I'm like, if it's a calling, you feel comfortable quitting if you don't get 3 clients over 90? Now, I'm not saying you can't get 3 clients over 90 days, but it's like, is that the metric you're going based off of if you really and truly believe this is a calling? But a lot of times people make decisions like that. They're not like, okay, I'm really finna focus on this thing for the next year, right? Or 2 years or 3 years to really master this. But you don't master something in 90 days. You don't master something in 6 months. You don't master something in a year, right? It's an evolutionary process, but most people aren't really going into nothing with like true mastery. Like I've been seeing you do what you do now since I've known you. But somebody will see you do it and be like, oh man, I want to start doing what Vernon does. But it's like, dude was doing this when I first heard about him before we even met. And he was doing it before then. Right? Yeah. But it's like, you don't just jump in the game and be like, okay, now I'm a world-class podcaster. That's why a lot of people, even with podcasts, people are like, they jump in and it's like they do 4 episodes. And it's like, that's it. It's like, dude, you need to do at least 100 episodes to even be halfway decent.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's like, is we live in the microwave society. Everybody wants that like next day Amazon, overnight results without doing the work.
Yep.
So that's actually something to note too. For anybody who's listening to this, if you're just getting started, if you're listening to what Marquel is saying right now, he's saying like make the long-term commitment, stick with it, right? I like how you said if you're going to do 12 workshops in a year, right? That's one a month. I like that. You can build some repetition. You can build some consistency. You can see some numbers. And like some of what you're saying is like you can actually look at, okay, like how much revenue did this make me? How can I reinvest that back in the business? Like you can actually have tangible data to look at versus if you just do it once or twice in or 90 days and you quit. A question that I want to ask you here is like, what are the, when you're running workshops, what are the key metrics that you're looking at? Are you looking at, because I know since you have the free front end, you get people in, you have the VIP. Are you looking at conversions on the back end? Are you looking at, lifetime value? Are you looking at, and I know we didn't talk about this, but in terms of, I'd imagine that you're running ads to the workshop or you're using a list. We can dive into that. But what are the key metrics that you're looking for, Marquel?
So, I guess the biggest metric, right, is like money in, money out. Like how much did we invest? How much did we make? How much did we make cash collected immediately? And then how much is it in actual sales? Because obviously sales is one thing, but like actual cash collected is a whole nother thing. So we're looking at those metrics, right? And then we're looking at, if we're pushing them to a call, we're looking, okay, what's the cost to get a call? Like what's our cost per call? And then what's our earnings per call? What's the cost per lead? And what's the earnings per lead? So we just kind of work it backwards. And then oftentimes, if your back end numbers ain't making sense, you can kind of go through and look at those other metrics and see where something is broken down.
And in your case, like, is there, I know you've been doing this for a while now and you've seen results with this. Like, are there specific case studies or like things that you can like point to? And maybe before we do that, let's talk about the structure of, how you're, structuring the back end, because I know that you mentioned you're selling like a 10K, a 10K coaching. Is it like a 10K coaching offer? And we'll come back to the other stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the offers. So we have quite a few offers, but that's one of our offers for sure, 10K offer. Okay,
so somebody's listening to this right now. They could potentially sell a high ticket 10K offer on the back end of their, 45 to 90 minute workshop based on, what we're learning today. Is there a certain, like, are you pushing people to an application? Like, what's the mechanism after the workshop that gets them to the sales call? And then let's talk about how that conversion actually takes place.
Yeah. So it's a 60 to 90 minute training, right? And then from there, lead them to a application where they apply. Then they actually show up on the call. And on the call is basically a discovery, seeing where someone is, seeing where they're looking to go, seeing what's that gap, and then, helping them close the gap to where they want to be. Okay. And once they see the gap, it's like, okay, cool. Would you like us to help you with this? And they're like, well, yeah, how can you help us? And then just kind of, talking about the offer and the different options. So it's pretty straightforward. So it's not like you got a crazy hard close them, so to speak. Sure. It's like it's really a heavy frame on service during the conversation. Just kind of seeing where they are, where they want to go, and then helping them close the gap.
And are there any like objections that, is there a way that you guys overturn objections in a certain way? If there are any, I don't know if there is.
So great question. So I think one thing you asked about mistakes. So I think one mistake that people make is they frame the call too heavy of, hey, just go schedule a free call. Or, hey, go schedule a free coaching call. Right? So now people are showing up because it's free. They're looking for some coaching. So it's not framed appropriately, right? One of the things I advise doing is like before having them book a call, let them know, hey, on this call, this is what's going to happen. We're going to look at your current situation. So let's say it's a fitness offer. We're going to look at where are you right now in terms of your fitness, right? What are some things that's holding you back? What are some things you challenge you with? And we're going to talk about where would you like to be in 90 days or 6 months, right? We're going to get very clear on that. And then from there, we're going to talk about how we can potentially help you make that happen. And if we believe we can help you, then we'll tell you about our fitness university or our fitness fit pros, whatever the program is. We'll talk about that. If we aren't a good fit, then we'll just let you know. And then you can just take what we cover on the call and go, do it on your own. So I think it's so framing that, hey, this is a conversation to dig into the situation where you're looking to go. However, we're also going to potentially talk about our program and how you can enroll, if it's a good fit.
That's interesting. So it's not like, I think you're framing it in a way that it's, hey, we might not even work together. Like, I don't even know if I'm going to like you. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe that's a stretch. But like, we might not even work together because you might not even have what's needed here, or you may be past that. We may not be a right fit. Does that sound right?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting from like people who maybe don't have a sales team. And I think, one of the things that, I know like entrepreneurs struggle with is selling sometimes. So I think this frame actually kind of eliminates some of that like fear of selling a little bit. Would you agree, Marquel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because now it just becomes a conversation just rooted in curiosity and service.
Yeah, I like that. That's interesting. Okay, so let's talk about the case study. I know you've done tons of these. Like, I mean, you guys have done your multi-million-dollar, revenue generator. I know you've crushed these things. Like, what are some of like, if you can reflect on like a recent example and maybe take us through, like some of the numbers that you guys did, like on the front end, like in terms of traffic, how much traffic were you generating? Or, like in terms of your, I don't know if you can break these down, but like cash collected, cost per call, cost per lead, like some of those numbers from a more recent workshop that you've done?
Yeah. So basically, because I wish I'd have knew and I'd have brought like some exact numbers, right? So I'll give like some averages just so kind of people have like a frame. Is that cool?
Yeah. No, that works.
Cool. So basically, let's say, for example, we say ideally we want to get 2,000 people registered, for example, right? So if we say 2,000 people registered, I'm just pull up so I can walk through the whole thing. So if we say we want to get 2,000 people registered, and let's just say we want to get a $15 registrant, like to register. That could be higher, it could be lower, but let's just go at 15. So we may say 15 times 2,000. So we may say, okay, we're going to allocate $30,000 as a budget, as an advertising budget to get 15, right? Now, based on that, we get 2,000 people to register. Ideally, we want to get at least 20% to show up, right? At least. Now, again, the colder you are, meaning the colder the audience you're targeting, the lower the show up rates can be. I mean, because we've had instances in transparency where the show up rate was 10%, right? But I'm gonna just say on average we like to be at 20%. So that'll mean we got 400 people to show up, right? So 2,000 people registered, 20% show up rate. So 400 people show up, right? And this is just all cold traffic. We're not even talking about emails and nothing like that. So it's 400. So let's just say, for example, on average, the last 5 or 6 times we've done it, we've had 40% on average apply for a call. But let's just go lower than that. Let's go conservative. Because typically when I'm working with a client, we shoot for a 10% application rate. So that'll mean we got 40 apps, right? So of those 40 apps, let's say you talk to 20 of them. Let's say only 20 of them show up. Let's say you disqualify some aren't a fit, some no show. So let's just say on average, 20% show up. 20 show up on the call. So that's 50%. So it's 20% show up on the call. 20 show up on the call, my bad. And then let's say 20% enroll. So that's 1 in 5. So that's 4 that enrolled. Right? And again, I'm being just super conservative with the numbers. Right? So out of the 4 that enrolled, depending on your price point, right? So let's just say your offer is, let's just say it's 10K. Right? So that'll mean you...
Like the fitness example, right?
Yeah, so let's just say it was 10K for the fitness example. So so let's say that the numbers are, so that means you made 40,000. Right? So you invested 30,000 and then you made 40,000. Right? So again, that's a super conservative example because like I said, we average 40% application rate. So even if we just bump that up to 20%, that'll mean we got 80 apps. So 400. So that means we got 80 applications. That's 20%. 400. 20%. Yep, we got 80 applications. Let's say 40 showed up. Out of the 40 that showed up, 20% enrolled. So that's 8 that enrolled, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just say it was 10,000 with the fitness offer example. So that's 80 grand.
80 grand on your 30 on your 30K spend.
On your 30K spend.
Hell of a come up.
Yeah, and the 20% application rate is pretty conservative because, like I said, based on our averages, it's been about 40% that apply. But even if we just slice that in half and say 20%, you get, 80 enrollments. And then you did.
And you're doing this like, what's the?
Let's say you did that. Let's say you did that bi-weekly. Let's say you did one every other week, and you just dumped the 30 back in, right? You can do them weekly, depending on your team and the capacity and stuff like that. But let's just say you did it every other week, so you just put the 30 back in. So you will spend 60,000 and made 160. So that'd be 100,000, like top line profit, before if you got a sales team paying the sales team commissions or whatever. But that ain't bad. And on your end,
no man, that's
on your end in terms of like to produce this, you've done 2 workshops about 90 minutes, so it's about 3 hours.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I love that. It's not a lot of work for a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I'll take that over a 9 to 5 any day. Yep. That's cool, man. But the back end here, I guess I'm also hearing like you got to have the back end for this to make sense too, right? If you're not selling something, if you don't have a back end high ticket offer, like this is going to be a lot harder for it to make sense. Would you agree or disagree with that?
You broke up a little bit. You said if you're not selling something.
If you don't have like a high ticket back end, do you agree that this like might not make sense?
Yeah. So for this model, if you're going to be sending people to a call, you definitely want to have a higher ticket offer. If you're going to be selling something in a 60 to 90 minute, I've seen people sell from a 60 to 90 minute. I've seen people sell anywhere from $297 to $497 up to like $2 to $3 grand for the most part. But if you're going to be sending them to a call, you definitely want it to be $5, $10, $15, $25,000 or more.
Right. And that also justifies the, like if you have a sales team that you're paying out, let's say you're paying them out a commission, 10%, 20%, whatever, like you can justify paying that with the high ticket back end. Yeah, so those are some solid numbers, man. I love that. I think that's really good. Now, what are there any, like in terms of like the delivery of like how you set this up? Are you using, what's your tech stack? Just out of curiosity, are you using like Go High Level, or using what are you using behind the scenes for delivery and stuff like that?
To do the actual workshop, right?
Yeah. So the workshop, are you like the email? I'd imagine you're doing some kind of like follow up sequence and stuff like that.
So we're using from an email standpoint is ActiveCampaign. To actually deliver it live is Zoom, right? And then to build out the registration page, we use ClickFunnels. It integrates with Zoom, and then we do some text reminders using Roseanne.
Nice.
Yep.
Clean.
I think that's pretty much
clean.
it. Yeah.
Why Zoom? Why Zoom over like a webinar platform? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know, man. I don't really. I just been using Zoom for a minute. Like, what other webinar platforms are there?
So a buddy of mine. Actually, I probably shouldn't mention them on the in the session, but yeah. So webinar. There's Webinar Fuel. There's Webinar Kit. Those are some new ones. But I think I asked this question because I was curious if you use Zoom as a way to kind of like disarm people, because I feel like the consumer is very intelligent, as you said at the beginning of our session, and they almost have a wall up and they feel like they know the pitch is coming. Yeah. Right? My wife is not a marketer, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to this thing and I'll tell you when they pitch me because I'll be waiting for it. And I'm just like, yeah, like she knows that there's a pitch. So I didn't know if that was part of your overall strategy with using Zoom versus
for me,
like a webinar platform.
So great point. So great question. So I use Zoom. So Zoom has a webinar feature, right? But I don't do the Zoom webinar feature. I do the meeting feature, and I also ask them to come on camera because I like to see the people and engage with the people. Versus it just being a long list of names. If I can see them and engage with them as if we're in an in-person workshop, it makes it that much more powerful, and it increases the experience. It improves the experience for them as well because now they're engaged. So I'm like, hey, if you can be on camera, turn on the camera so we can actually all be here present so you can get the most out of this.
So it's actually like a in-person workshop experience is what you're trying to like mimic.
100%.
Versus 100%. A webinar where it's just like one to many.
Mm-hmm.
That's brilliant.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Exactly. I didn't think of that. What kind of questions are you asking them, like when you're bringing them on camera, like when they're in the audience? I'm just out of curiosity.
So sometimes it's not. So sometimes it's just like, hey, is this making sense to y'all? Type in the chat. Let me know if this is making sense. Or, what's your big takeaway from this? How are you going to implement this? So just engage them throughout. But I'm not. They don't necessarily got to be on camera talking. I just want to be on camera where I can actually see them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not like bringing them up like as a hot seat participant.
For our longer, you're not
bringing them up as like a hot seat.
So typically for our longer workshops, like our half day type workshops, 5-6 hours, we do some hot seats where we'll bring them out. But yeah, so it just varies on the situation. Now, if I ask a question and they type it in the chat and I think it's kind of interesting, I'll say, hey, can you unmute Vernon and expound on that a little bit? And I may help somebody and coach somebody through it, like right then on the spot. And then even at the end, I'm like, hey, let's open up for some Q&A. Because at the end, I let them know. Like at the beginning, I say, okay, look, check this out. At the end, well, I'll say, number one, how many of y'all have ever attended events and the whole time they pretended to be teaching you something, but they was really just trying to sell you? And people like, me, definitely I've experienced that. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, I'm like, well, on this training, this isn't that, right? I'm actually not trying to sell you anything. I actually don't even have anything for sale at the end. I don't have a course to sell you at the end. At the end, some of y'all are going to be like, this was amazing. You're going to take it, go implement it your own. Some of y'all are going to be like, this was incredible. Can you and your team help me do it? And if that's the case, we'll talk about that. But it's not for everybody, right? And you can't even buy it right here. So put your cards away, put your purse away, put your wallet away. You're safe. And I'll say also at the end, I'm going to hang out and answer every single one of your questions, right? So get your questions ready, and we're going to dig into all your questions at the end as well. So I'm doing that right at the very beginning.
That is brilliant. That is brilliant. Because you're disarming people that are like their guards up. This guy's going to try to sell me some shit. And you're like, put your credit cards away. I ain't even got nothing for sale today. Like, just stop. Just hear the value that I'm about to drop. I love that. Is there anything that like in terms of like the future of workshops, is there anything that you see over the next year changing or evolving in the industry? I know that, this particular session and this, what we're working on here, we're more focused on webinars. There's a lot of people that say webinars are dead. I don't believe that. I would like to get your feedback on kind of like where you see workshops evolving in our industry over the next 12 to maybe 24 months. And also, if you're integrating like AI into this process at all, I'd be curious to hear about that as well.
Yeah. So I think it depends on the market, right? It depends on the market that you're in. So if you serve like stay-at-home moms and you're teaching them how to breastfeed effectively, right? They don't really know what a webinar is. It's totally new to them, right? So you can send them to an automated webinar and they don't really know, right? If you're teaching people how to make money online with Shopify, I mean, they know what a webinar is, right? So you gotta, especially if they've been on the line for a minute, so you gotta just be upfront with what's going on, right? So it just depends on the market. But I just think with doing the workshops or webinars or whatever, depending on your market, you just have to be forthcoming with what's happening and really show why what you're doing is different, because there's more and more options popping up every day. So it's like you got to be really good at differentiating why your thing is better, right? I also think, especially since COVID, the whole pandemic shutdown has passed us. I think in person is going to be something powerful to add to as an asset as well. But in terms of online, I think just really showing up powerfully, really serving the people, really being forthcoming and not insulting people's intelligence, it's going to be very, very powerful in terms of like executing it. And in terms of AI, so I got a slightly different stance with AI, right? Because a lot of people are acting like AI is something new. AI actually isn't something new, right? AI is something we've actually been using, right? When you send out when you get an email from Gmail, and Gmail gives you prompted replies already, like that's AI. Like, and they've been doing that, 3 years, 4 years, maybe even longer. If you hold your phone and you're like, "Hey Siri, can you see?" Siri just popped up. It's like, that's AI, right? What's the other one for Android phones or whatever? It's like all those things are AI. Like we've been using AI. Now a lot of the new stuff with like ChatGPT, and you got the AI where you can duplicate and you can use video versions of yourself, where you can use like an AI version of you. That's a little bit different. We haven't started using any of that, but yeah. Now let me speak on now in terms of AI. I think something with more and more people using AI, I think the opposite of what some people think. I think the more you can humanize yourself in this era of AI is going to make you more powerful. Because like human beings still like human touch, right? So like, for example, barbers are never going to go anywhere. AI isn't going to replace barbers, because when you go get your haircut, I said you got the fresh lineup. When you go get your haircut, it's like you talking to a real human, and you want to be chopping it up with a real person while you're getting your cut. You know what I'm saying? So now you can pull up and go get your car washed by a robot, but it's like when you go sit down and get your hair did, or ladies go get their hair done, they want a real person there. You know what I'm saying? So I think in this online world, the more you can humanize yourself. So for example, and this ain't something we didn't talk about, when somebody's registering for the workshop, do you have people calling all the registrants to make sure that they got their links, they got all the details? Yeah, you can use ringless voicemail. Yeah, you can use text. Yeah, you can use email. Yeah, you can use all that. But do you have a real human picking up the phone, calling them? Like, "Hey, Vernon, I'm your concierge. I work with Marquel. I see that you're registered for our upcoming XYZ workshop. Want to make sure you got all the kit, make sure you got everything, and make sure you're all squared away, and see if you have any questions that you want me to ask Marquel or you want to ask me, so we can make sure you get the best out of this experience. Like, who do you know that's doing that other than us?
I don't know anybody that's doing that. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
Exactly.
powerful, man.
But
That's a
but
gem for
just
sure.
just that.
Yeah.
People are like, I got a concierge for a free event? Huh? And they're like, if you get this for a free event, I can only imagine what I get when I pay. So it's like, how can you add
Yeah.
real human touch in your marketing process? When somebody downloads your lead magnet,
So I
it's
take
somebody calling them like, hey, I saw you downloaded the workshop playbook. I work here at Marquel. Want to make sure you got access to it. I know technology can be weird sometimes. Want to make sure you did get access to it. See if you had any questions. Like, anybody doing that?
So I take it you would never clone yourself and have like an AI do your workshop.
I doubt it. I can't see that. Nah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I can't say it, but I know at this point, I enjoy teaching. So teaching isn't something I just do because I have to. Like, I enjoy teaching. That's like my gift. I actually enjoy it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that, man. I know that, like I said, you're one of the best in the game when it comes to doing this kind of stuff, high ticket, and I see your ads all over the place. I saw your Super Bowl breakdown ad. So yeah, man, I'm just
Appreciate
excited to continue to follow your lead and see how you continue to shake up the industry and do amazing stuff. Is there anything else, like, for somebody listening right now? I know we've covered a lot, and we talked about the process of the workshop. We talked about the biggest mistakes. We talked about we basically broke down your entire business and how you run this and how people can make thousands of dollars selling their high ticket programs. Is there anything else that you would say, if somebody listening to this, hey, just if you could just do this one thing, or I just want to give you this one more thing before I go, what would that be, Marquel?
I would say pick one thing, get focused, and get consistent. Lock in on something. Get consistent. Get consistent. Keep doing it over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's what I would say.
Just respect.
Yep.
Respect. Well, I want to thank Marquel for joining us today and sharing his amazing knowledge with us. If you haven't already, remember that you can grab the bonus, the VIP pass. If you haven't claimed your VIP pass, you can grab that and get access to all the recordings, transcripts, MP3s. All of that is part of the package. So make sure you click that button now at the bottom of this page to upgrade before it's too late. And remember that when this event is over, the recordings are all gone and the bonuses will go away. So make sure you claim your VIP pass today before it's too late. Marquel, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, bro.